Good morning, everyone. It is December 2nd, and this is Nadex Morning Analysis. Before Brian and I jump into a couple of markets and look at some potential trade setups, by the way, quick introduction. I am Todd Rich with Nadex, and with me I've got Brian Caprice from Keep Trading Simple. Before we run the session, I do need to disclaim that trading involves risk and may not be appropriate for everyone, and that any trading decisions you make are solely your responsibility and at your own risk. Lastly, please don't construe anything that Brian or I say today as a trade recommendation. We are doing this for your education purposes only. That is important. All right, so with that, Brian, I know that there's been a lot going on, but I think overnight the Brexit talk has really kind of impacted the currency markets. I think pound yen would be a great place to start. What do you think?
Yeah, and let me kind of bring everybody up to speed on that one. So one of the things we've been talking about the last few weeks, and actually yesterday we were talking about, there was talk of having an agreement in place by the end of this week, that they said they could see the tunnel. Well, last night talks basically fell through. You're seeing a lot of information about here. EU tells Brexit negotiator, don't let deadline force a bad deal. Barner is telling EU ambassadors there may be no Brexit deal. So again, a lot of it may be political posturing. But as we mentioned over the last few weeks, a trade deal between the EU and the UK would be a big boom for the pound. We were waiting for that, waiting for it to explode. But again, the word of warning has been if no deal comes through, although UK companies should be prepared, it's not necessarily a good thing. It's not what the market wants to see. So a lot of the data we've seen overnight has been based off of that. And the resulting effect is a big crash in the pound yen. Now, we talked about it yesterday. We said that, hey, listen, we had a level up at 140.11, talking about the upper region of this kind of the extreme range of the curve here, an area that we absolutely love. And as you can see, again, we had one little bounce and then that kind of pushed to the downside. It's been quite a mover. Now, is this a place that we go long just because there's a demand area there? The answer is probably not really. It's not in a position yet where we're ready to step in front of this one. Coming from high in the curve back into the middle range is what we expect. Right now, I'm kind of looking for more areas where we could have a potential basing and a stop and then kind of a rollover. Now, a lot of the data is already in. A lot of the news is in. But we need to be very cautious because, it is now Wednesday. Tomorrow, if they say, hey, listen, it's not happening this week, again, that could provide further negativity. So we need to make sure that we're using higher time frame levels. So right now, although price is at 139.01 or 139, that's a level that we've marked off yesterday as kind of a downward side target. 138, kind of 37.40. This is where the weekend gap happened from Friday to Sunday, which always signifies an area of imbalance and an area where buyers stepped in. And they did last time. That may be kind of our target number 2 here. And then looking at a higher time frame, jumping up to a 4-hour, you can see down here at 137.43 is really the next time we had a major area of buyers stepping in. So 138.37 is one area, 137.40-ish is another level. And if we can get all the way down to here, and this is Friday, we could even have a drop further, kind of a break, even much, much lower. But right now, we're dealing with these two targets of 138.37 and 137.43.
All right, so let me go ahead and jump over to the Nadex platform. I want to take a look at some of that. Yeah, it is rather interesting. I mean, this is definitely a news-driven market as everyone waits to see, what ultimately happens here with the final Brexit decisions. Here are those levels that we were showing. Let me move this out of the way. Right now, we're looking at Nadex knockouts. But yeah, we did have that level up around, just above 140 that we, this is something you've been talking about for a little while, and it's definitely seen some resistance up there. And then as I'm going to zoom back in to give us a little bit of a closer time frame, we had these other levels that, this 139.80-ish level was one where it just sort of held, but when it went through, it hit that, it put us where we are roughly now, and we're breaking through this level. And so what do we have below? You mentioned potentially 138.40-ish, which is right in this range. actually it's down here, right?
Yeah, it's right near the gap. It should be the gap.
Yeah.
138.40.
Yeah, it is right here at the gap. And then right below that would be, 137.40 down below. If you wanted to play this with the Nadex knockout, what do we have? I mean, we do have some things that could potentially be interesting, but I don't know if there's anything here as this breaks down. Who knows what it's going to do? But you are in a defined risk, defined reward environment. Let's take a look at the call spreads. That could actually be. I want to see what we've got over in our call spreads on the pound yen.
Yeah, the knockout was more of the one up top that we mentioned earlier this week. At this point, now that it's rallying so far down, it's kind of hard to grab knockouts because it's pulling away from the price, not kind of pulling back up through. So call spreads tend to be kind of more of a go-to in the situation for me.
Yeah, right. You don't want to be chasing it. Is what you're
additional
thinking.
risk if you're doing it that way.
So, I mean, there are some ideas, here with some of these call spreads that could be interesting. I think in the end, the best way to really play this, I would actually say, would be maybe looking at the binary options. Again, our most popular product. But if I come down to the pound yen, and we could I'll look at the end of the day today. Here we are at the 139.40. There are some strikes in here that, as the price moves up and down throughout the day, these probabilities are going to change. And if you happen to catch a move, there might be an opportunity when you're looking at levels down at 138.40 or even all the way down at 137.40. There could be some binary options that create opportunities later on this morning. All right, so let's do one more.
Okay.
I think we did a little bit with the pound yen. And I like going back to that, but the other market that's moving this morning is the Dow.
And I wanted to show. Actually, let me show something real quick, just for everybody in there.
Hold on. There you go.
With regard to the pound yen, everybody's asking, how do we play this? It's already moved. How do I get in? And I mentioned you don't want to kind of chase things because you get additional risk in that one. Let me mark off something real fast for everybody. This is, and I mentioned this yesterday, but I want to make sure everybody can really see this because this is something that I feel is underutilized. This area right here is to where kind of we are right now. But here, this is the range. And again, it's important to understand this. This is the range from the UK Open till now. And it's about 86 pips or 88 pips to the downside. So it's rather huge. Obviously, in the last 2 hours as well, you can see that these two candles are 74 pips. Why am I bringing up pips even if you're not a currency trader? Well, pull in the Nadex contract specifications, and I've used this a lot of times. You guys can see here, the dailies, you can see the differences, right? So a lot of your dailies, even the early morning ones from the UK Open till, say, 7 o'clock in the morning, it's a strike differential of 20 strike width of 20 pips. That's four binary options to the downside in literally 3 or 4 hours. So there can be a lot of movement based off the UK Open. So if you guys are looking for additional opportunities, particularly with things like Brexit right now, I know it's in the middle of the night, but the UK Open with binaries, there's so much movement. And a lot of these kind of smaller, kind of 3M not so much is definitely open, but the 7s and the 11s are really great binaries to be able to trade in the morning. All right, let's go to the other one. I don't want to hijack too much today. Let's go over and talk about the Dow. The Dow yesterday, in the longer kind of detailed presentation, we kind of drew some lines about where we kind of expected price to move to. And you can see, guys, here's the drawings from yesterday. We talked about that retracement. Here's the wicks back and forth, the basing at that level, the drop down, okay? When we're pulling up, and let me pull this up so you guys can see it as well. Yesterday, we mentioned the unemployment numbers maybe not being great, right? Here's our unemployment number for the morning, right? Our non-farm employment change, basically how many people were hired. I mentioned I didn't expect this week to be good. I expected next week to be even worse, that they had brought this forecast down, but the forecast was 433,000 people would be hired. It only came in at 307. That is a huge miss. You can see 2 weeks in a row, huge miss. And now what happened is in the last week, we've heard a lot more lockdowns, curfews being put into many different places. So again, this is a number to watch. And the result from that has been the Dow kind of not only collapsing in the overnight, but now kind of stabilizing. So this one's a little bit harder to grab. Again, the short that we talked about earlier in the week was right up at that 30,000. You can see that we had that 30-minute level up top. The sell here, it ended up blowing right through even the 1 to 5. This was like a 1 to 10, 1 to 12 trade at this point. But anyway, there's two small levels. The 29,520 is a level that, although it's been tested, we had a nice base, a pop, and then a test before it punched higher. I think this needs to be more of a target to the downside. If we get some type of a confirmation bounce, maybe something that comes in here along this line and, again, drives back in. Actually, it'd be the other way. It'd be coming through and then this out. Let me draw the pattern so you guys are seeing the right pattern.
There you go.
If we have some type of a pattern, like a bounce, where it hits this level, maybe goes into it a bit, pulls away, and then puts in a higher low, that could be a signal for a reversal. But if not, if we go back up to larger time frames, you can see that there's a lot of wicks, a lot of indecision, not a whole lot of clean levels sitting in this area. And this is on the hourly. The 4 hour, you can see if price is able to drop. The 29,227 is the last area on the large time frame where we've really seen a bounce. But the employment data was not great today.
So let's actually jump over to the Nadex platform on the Dow, and I've got to switch myself over there now. And because I do find this one's going to be an interesting one. We've been chopping around. There was this 30,000 psychological mark that we had identified earlier, and then you were talking. If we were to find some support to the downside, maybe around this 29,500 level here below. Let me draw that in. There we go.
And while you're doing that too, just beware that Powell is speaking again at 10 o'clock today.
Yeah, and that's what, that's exactly what. Yeah. So this is going to be news driven, event driven. And this is those opportunities where if you see a level, could there be a play if you're looking for a bounce? Pay attention when he's talking. I want to take a quick look. What do we have in our call spreads over here on the?
And remember, last time that he testified, when he mentioned the word that we will continue to support, the market really liked that terminology. And unemployment, the employment data being bad today, I don't see how he can say anything negative. So the price going down may be a buying opportunity, especially if he mentions the word stimulus, keeping interest rates low for a longer time, or supporting or bridging. Those are all kind of bad dollar, but great, stock indices.
Stock indices. And, just quickly, because we've mentioned it, and I think it's rather important because it's happening this week. We do have the event contracts over at Nadex. Initial jobless claims tomorrow. And we've been seeing that the economists have been missing these numbers fairly significantly. So there are some opportunities if you think that they're going to miss what the estimates are, whether they're underestimating or overestimating. The contract where it's trading right around 50 is where the expectations are, and if it's going to perform worse, if we're going to have more jobless claims, there are opportunities where you can either buy hey, I think it's definitely going to be above this level and it's a defined risk, defined reward, or you could buy an at the money and watch it go higher, or there are opportunities here if they're going to miss. It's not just jobless claims. If we go back to the events, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to close that. On Friday, we got the monthly numbers. We got non-farm payrolls that are coming out, as well as the unemployment rate. And right now, it looks like the unemployment rate, they're expecting to come in right at 6.9%. We'll see what the numbers are, but there is opportunity in Nadex binary options in the event contracts for you to outpredict the economists.
Yeah, and they're saying right now that a non-farm employment change is supposed to be 500,000. Unemployment rate is going down. So it's kind of one of those things that we had a miss of 100,000 today. Are they going to change that forecast? Could be pretty interesting going into Friday.
Yeah, so definitely got some things to look forward to later this week. With that, I want to thank everyone for joining us this morning. If you've got any questions for Nadex, customer service at nadex.com, please follow us on social media, definitely on our YouTube channel. Subscribe to it and set alerts for these. We're doing them every morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central. If you got any questions for Brian, support at keeptradingsimple.com. We are accessible. We're here to help you. Any way that we can help you, please let us know. With that, want to wish you good luck in the markets, and we'll catch you tomorrow morning. Thanks, everyone.